Yeah, I believe it's going to work now. All right. All right, we're live on Green Greg's, and we're live on Lee Wilbarger's channel. All right, this is Greg Allison from Green Greg's, and we're live on two channels. All right. All right, we're live. I got to mute that. Oh, well, we did. Normally I have that default muted, but since it made me redo everything. All right, guys. So Lee, you got pictures here of this cooling pond dropping. You got some new satellite photographs. Let's see it.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm digging for right now. I had them here a few minutes ago. Let me go get them because I wasn't prepared for you. I was in the middle of my broadcast, but I will get them for you here. So what we have is the water around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has already dropped so much that you don't need bridges. You can walk across.
Lord, well, the fact of the matter was that it didn't have to drop a whole lot. They did not have enough design margin in the intakes for the pumps that took water out of the reservoir around the cooling pond to keep water in that cooling pond, because it only had to drop down to 12.7 meters to be hanging in the air and not in the water. Well, the water was about 13.1 meters and altitude. We're talking about altitudes above sea level, because it's pretty close to sea level in that area. They're just a few feet above. Typically, the river itself, once you get below the dam, is almost 0 foot sea level. Cooling pond for Zaporizhzhia plant.
Yeah, it's dropping like a rock. It's right there, and that's from there. I lost you, Greg.
All right, I dropped out.
All right, that's all right. You're back.
Yeah, so this is what my internet's doing. I'm dropping out constantly. I've been doing this for days. So yeah, sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. So there you can see on your screen what it looks like out from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Here is a report that is talking about the water levels dropping at the power plant. And I'm trying to get you the animation here that was here before. And for some reason, so hold on, let me get it here.
All right, everyone. He's trying to pull up a simulation here. We're having a little slow growth. I'm having some internet connectivity problems. Nothing I can do about that. But just is what it is. We just got to rock and roll with what we got.
Okay, here we go. Let me move this down here. So when you look at this image, and let me switch it over here for you. In the top image is before. In the bottom image is current here. And you can see that you can now see the bottom. In the top image, you cannot see the bottom. In the bottom image, you can.
Okay, what I'm looking at here is the thickness of the berm itself. You can see the berm looks thicker in the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
The top.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now you can tell that the inlet there where this thing was drawing water at the lower left-hand corner is gone. It's all dry. I mean, that's so the direct channels to the river, the reservoir, are gone. But that pond in the middle is what you were counting on. That pond in the middle, they kept it pumped about 10 foot higher than the river. The river water in our, for us English unit people, was that the river reservoir was at 43 foot. The pond, that big cooling pond there, they kept it at 53 feet. Now, actually, those channels, which look like they're straight up that pond, if you look up behind the nuclear power plant, are at about 60, 61, maybe or better feet. So there's some drop. It looks like it's continuous all the way down. there's some drop in that channel there going back to the ponds. That must be where they're putting water back from the plant into the cooling pool. They're recycling it because it gets hot. They're just pumping it in and out, apparently. So that's what's apparently going on there in that case. So the fact that you see such a wide berm. Now, the thing to be most disturbed with is try to look at the berm on the right side and try to see how much it's changed there. And I can see it has changed some. And that tells you the water level is dropping inside. For example, if you see that little circle up at the upper left-hand side in both photographs, you can see there is more material on the right side. You expect it's going to drop on the left side because the river's dropping like crazy. But on the right side, that's what's disturbing. So it's already dropped down below the level that they can replenish that pond. And it is starting to drop in the pond itself. So you're saying you can actually see the bottom in the
bottom image. You can start to see the bottom. That's the bottom of the cooling pond. And then here is the animation. Let me get this one for you here.
Well, it'd be nice to have somebody there that on the ground that could tell us how deep that thing actually is, because everything we're hearing, the IAEA guy is trying to. Whoa! What is that? An animation? Or?
Yeah, this is the animation. These are the last 3 satellite images there. And in the last one, if you look at it, you can actually see that the pond is getting lighter colored.
Well, the funny thing about that animation is that the berm looks about like it does in the photograph.
Yeah, because the photograph is from today.
Yeah, well, the photograph of the berm looks like it shows in the animation. So that's a disturbing sign to me.
Yeah. Well, you saw where they were talking about the fact that now, because the water level has dropped, that there's the possibility, the engineers have said there's a possibility that this cooling pond could have a blowout because there's nothing holding pressure on the opposite side of the berm. And because it's above the water, they've got the possibility of it blowing out and coming out into the river.
So the berm wasn't designed to be freestanding more than about 10 feet then with the
correct.
So it's got a lot of weight pushing on the side with the water and nothing holding it back on the other side. That's horrible. You know,
yes.
What we're seeing here is a lack of design margin, a lack of safety margin left and right in this system. Having those inlets where they would be not able to pull water at only 12.7 meters was crazy. You know, the whole water level was only 13 meters in the lake. That was and considering they were reliant on a dam, you know, to maintain that water level to save the largest nuclear plant in Europe. You know, tell me there ain't something wrong with that picture. Where was our safety engineers? I work system safety. You know, if I'd have been in that design, I'd have said, what are you guys doing? This is nuts. You know, you know, if they had a safety engineer, they were overruled by management. Oh, we got to save costs. We got to save money, schedule. They always come up with some excuse. I'm getting a note my internet connection is unstable. I already knew that. I'll probably drop out a bunch here because I've been having all kind of internet trouble. But Lee, this is how far apart of the images. Ask Jason Doe. I got a guy.
You can see it right there at the top. So one is on the 5th, the next one's on the 9th, and the last one is on the 13th, which is yesterday.
Okay, 5th, 9th, and 13th. All right, my bandwidth is low. It's not
the upper right-hand corner there.
My fault. I don't know what is going on. My internet here is gone. I pay a lot of money for a top-end cable service, and I've had terrible.
Yep. They cut you off again, buddy. This is how they're doing, folks. We were just cut off from Rumble a few minutes ago and had to start this new stream over again. And well, it looks like Greg is gone. But folks, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what's going on here. That.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, there he is. Look at that. Thank you, sir. I told you we'd wait for you.
This is crazy. Sorry about this, guys. I can't help it. It's a stupid internet. I've never seen it so bad in all the years I've been doing YouTube. This is horrible.
Greg, they're doing it to me too, dude. I've got every kind of connection known to God, and it happens on every single one of them. I've got 150 meg down and 90 meg up, and
Oh,
it's doing this to me.
I've been noticing I got two networks. I got the one through my phone, which is AT&T, and then
There you go again. They don't want you talking, Greg. This is why you folks got to get on the internet or get on the KLW World News Network, because the censorship of the power elites, Google, Rumble, YouTube, all those, they can have censorship capabilities and they can cut us off. So you can't get the truth. Again, this is why you have to get on the KLW World News Network. And Greg, if I were the type of person that did acid, that would have freaked me out. But I'm not. So we'll wait and hopefully you'll come back. If you do, well, we'll welcome you with open arms. But the crazy part about this is, folks, the government doesn't care if we're being censored. And in fact, in some cases, they are supporting censorship of platforms like myself, that of Greg's and other truth sayers. That's right. We're here to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this is why you have to get on our network. So go to klwworldnews.com, sign up there, VIP or above. Shark Pick, I don't know what you're talking about. Reactor 5. It was Reactor 4 at Chernobyl. And it's funny that out of the 6 reactors that are at Zaporizhzhia, Putin chose to put all of the explosives into turbine building number 4. Yeah, roger that. Get on the network for a lifeline of truth, because that's what we've got. So it is getting crazier by the minute. So what we're going to do in the absence of our good friend Green Greg's.
I'm back.
There he is.
Back. Hey, maybe for 5 seconds, who knows?
Hey, well, we're happy to have you no matter how long it is.
I've been on here for 5 years, and I've never seen anything approaching this, not close. But here's the crazy thing. I got a separate network through my phone, and I've been having trouble with it too. This is AT&T.
Well, this is what I was saying. I have an AT&T router. I have a Verizon router. I have 2 DSLs, actually 3 DSLs, and I have another hotspot. Or excuse me, 2 hotspots. And it doesn't matter what the connection speed is on any of those devices. I'm still being kicked off and told that I don't have enough bit rate, but yet I've got 90 down and 28 up. And I only need 6 up to do a good clean stream. So it's absolutely nuts. And I've been cutting back my bandwidth, going from 30 frames a second to 20 frames a second to try to get rid of the buffering. So anyway, Greg, I was going to play the video about what you were talking about 5 days ago. So if you would tell people just how bad this is going to be.
Okay. The cooling pools for Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant are extra packed with spent fuel rods. They're outside of the, let me do a share screen. They are outside of the containment buildings. They are out in the open air. All right, now you can see my screen. I am looking here at the Zaporizhzhia cooling pool interface here. Let me back out a little bit. You can see these channels are a little higher than the pool because they're draining water into it. So that means they're doing a lot of pumping to be able to do that. It means they got to move a lot of water here to be able to do that kind of thing, guys. This is the picture from Google Earth. Now that's the little pond, that little corner thing. This area here is all above water now. This is the either the overflow outlet.
That's the intake.
Yeah, but well,
yeah, that's the intake.
But this water in here is higher than this water.
Correct.
This is at 53, and that's at 43 feet. I got mine set in feet instead of meters, because that's what most of my followers are going to know, although I got some people here from Norway and other countries. But let me just show you. All of this is to keep this stuff here cool. Let me zoom in now, and I got it repositioned. These are the spent fuel rod pools. The spent fuel rod pools have a lot more radioactive material in them than do these containment buildings. In the center of these containment buildings, if you go down, is the reactors. There's 6 of these here. But these things are, that fuel is good for a certain period of time, and they take it out. Sometimes they put hot fuel in here before you'd stage it into a reactor, typically in a nuclear power plant. Typically, these pools are covered with 20 foot of water, so everything is good. But they've got these double stacked. Every one of these pools is stacked like crazy with extra fuel rods, because this plant is so huge, it's been running so long. They got they're doing that just for the capacity, because they don't have anywhere else to send these rods. These rods are radioactive for 5 to 7 years, and they're having to actually pump cooling water on top of these, which is unusual. Well, not cool. We always put cooling water in, but they're spraying it, which means it's going to evaporate fast. You can see here, this is all where they're spraying water in from the looks of it, because just look at that. You can see where there's sprayers. That means they're trying harder to keep this water cooler, which means also they're going to have a lot higher evaporation rate, because one, typically you do like a cooling pool has 160 gallons a minute evaporation rate. These probably are a lot more because they got extra fuel rods in them. And then the spraying water is going to, it'll make the cooling faster. But that also means that the water is going to evaporate even faster from the spray jets here. So you got a lot of stuff going on here to cause water to leave these cooling pools. These fuel rods are of a zircaloy alloy. It's what's called zircon. It's an alloy of zirconium and some other metals. Now it can be, zirconium. A lot of you ladies, that diamond ring you got on your finger that your boyfriend or husband gave you may be a zirconium, cubic zirconium, which is about the same stuff, except this stuff, when it's hot, burns on contact with air, and it is hot because it's got those random fuel pellets in it. For anybody doubts that, I've shown video, and I can do it again at some point. I've got the test report from the Sandia National Laboratory showing where those things burnt slap up completely when exposed to air when they were hot. They totally caught fire. So what we got to worry about is this water recedes on these cooling pools because they run out of pumping water, that you're going to have a situation of a whole lot of radioactive material going up in smoke. It's going to be worse than a plant meltdown, because there's so much material here, just so much of it. It's mind-boggling, and there's no containment. They're always worried about a nuclear power reactor going into meltdown, so they got a big containment building over here around the reactor, but over here, no. So, but they never counted on the idea, just like they never counted on losing a dam or the water level dropping and needing a lower inlet. See, again, another thing they don't count on is the idea they may not have power to pump the water. Well, if power goes out, we got a backup generator. Well, what happens when you can't get diesel fuel to the backup generators? The power in the community is limited. And I've heard 2 reports, Lee. I read reports that said that they'd shut down all these reactors. The last reactor,
Good.
11 September. And now there's some word I've been hearing. No, well, we actually got one running because there's a community that needs a little power. So we got one running partial power or something like that. You mean to tell me one of these reactors is still hot? You got to be kidding me.
Number 4.
So they're asking for trouble. They're just asking for trouble. It takes months to cool one of these reactors down after they shut it down. Months.
Well, I was told that it took at least a year to stop flowing water through it.
Yeah, you got to flow water for a long time.
Right, at least a year.
At least.
And then the crazy part about it is, so the reactor that was active in September and quite possibly still active up until a couple of weeks ago or even days ago, that reactor is reactor number 4. That happens to be the same building, the turbine building for number 4, where Putin has planted hundreds of tons of explosives. So the turbine building for reactor 4 is full of high explosives, and it's enough to blow half of that reactor away.
That's reactor 4 right there. This is
the second one from the north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I counted from the south.
Okay.
It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. That's reactor 4 right there. And you can see they got these pumping stations here for pumping water in and out of these channels. That's probably,
Well, what they've done is that wall between the turbine building and the reactor building, because they're side by side, that wall right there has got anti-tank mines stacked probably 4 thick and all the way up that wall.
oh, good grief.
Yeah, there's truckload after truckload after truckload. And I have scoured the internet. We had pictures of it, but for some reason, they're not there now. And the interesting part about all of this is, and by the way, did you know that they cut off all of the nuclear sensors, all of the radiological sensors around the plant? They
Yeah,
cut all of those off this afternoon.
I just saw an article on that. That's terrible. Yeah, they're not giving the data to Ukraine on the radioactive situation here.
Well, that's
not good.
because they want it to go.
That is not good. So, guys, the thing is, they've got to keep water in these cooling rod pools and in these reactors. If this, this pool too has a limit as to how far down it can go. It's probably not all the way to the ground. What is the limit on this pool? We knew what the limit were for the intakes out here, and it was 12.7 meters. But what the heck is the intake level for this pool? I don't know the answer to that, Lee. And I'd be curious to find out what that answer is, because this is the pool that supplies the water that feeds all this other stuff right here. And apparently this stuff is evaporating pretty fast, and even the pool itself has some evaporation. There's, like you said, a risk of that breaking. They claim that there's 2 months of reserve in there, but even if it is 2 months, that's a ticking clock. I did a video where I put either in my title or in the thumbnail, I said something about a ticking time bomb. Some smart aleck come on and said, yeah, it's not a bomb and it don't tick. Well, somebody needs to get their head out of there, because they're not thinking. The analogy I was using, this whole area is worse than a bomb. There's so much stuff here that you'd be better off if somebody set a nuclear bomb off than you would be if this stuff's a big one. Then if this
That's what I said. That's what I said the other night. I said
worse than a nuclear bomb.
By far. And I said that the other night, and somebody said I was crazy. I said, look,
it is worse. There's far more radiation to come out of this than would come out of a nuclear detonation. And it will irradiate for months, maybe years before it stops. If you had a nuclear bomb set off, the radiation is pretty much gone for the most part in about 2 weeks. It drops off fast. So you have some residual, of course, but the main load of it goes pretty quick. But with this situation is horrible, because this can irradiate for a long distance for a long time, and it can really wipe out this area if it goes. And here's the key thing: how do you provide enough water? Lee, when you look at all this water flowing out of here, I want to zoom in here. I want to show you something. This pool here, if you read here on Google Earth, look down right around here, you can see the altitude. It says it's 53 feet. This is before the reservoir dropped. It was 43 feet at the time. You see, it says 43 feet. Now, if you come back over here, now you can see it's flowing. You can tell it's higher right here. This channel is at 65 feet.
Right.
So they're up. Yeah. And this channel here, well, this one's a little bit lower. That's kind of odd.
Yeah, but look at the width of the stream of the water that's going into the pond. Look at the bridge where it goes across there to your left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right there.
I've been looking at that. That's why you can see.
Right. Measure that. Measure that.
Well, you got little sluice gates or something there.
Right, but measure how wide that is, just to give people an idea of how much freaking water is flowing through there. That's not a creek.
Hey, that ain't just part of it. That's just part. Okay.
Right, but I'm just giving an example.
Feet. Oh, it didn't do it for me. What's wrong with this thing? Let's try it again. All right, 163 feet.
So that's 163 feet across there, people.
Oh, well, look here. You can see steam right here.
Right.
Steam rolling across right there.
Right.
And here's another one. And if you think that's something, you go all the way down, and these channels connect directly into the pond. I mean, this may be kind of a shallow drain situation.
No, I don't think it is.
I don't think that is. That's a wide open connection from these channels out here, and you drop. Here we're back to 53 feet. Here we're 53 feet. There's a 10-foot, maybe 12-foot drop according to what Google Earth is saying, and maybe Google Earth's got an issue here, but that's a huge drop with a wide open channel. How much water are they pumping here, Lee? They got a heck of a pumping operation.
This is why I told you they were at a minimum pumping over 2,000 gallons a minute.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Seeing that right there, we're probably closer to 10,000 gallons a minute.
If you look at the difference in altitude here and over here, and you see this is wide open channels and overflows flowing like crazy, holy smoke, they're moving some water. But you can see they must be, because they're spraying like heck over here.
Right.
Some over here, and they got water going through here. And in one place you can even see some steam right here. So looks like. So there's all kind of stuff going on here. Maybe if you look close, you might see some down in here. But this is, I don't know, this is pretty incredible to me that when I look at this and see how they're running this place, there's like no design margin on any of this. It's like wide open, just raring for a big fire. This is a really bad situation, guys. They've not accounted for what happens when the grid goes down. See, the problem is this is what provided the power in the area that in the hydroelectric dam. The hydroelectric dam's gone. If they're still running unit 4, maybe they got a little power in the area. Somebody said, well, still got power in the area because they're running unit 4. Right,
but that's even worse, because now you have a hot reactor that's going to take even more water.
Right. So how are they going to get, Lee? Let's back out here. Where are they going to get the water from? I mean, they got to have some place where they can pump. To have pump, you got to have power. Zaporizhzhia is actually a long distance up here.
The closest water is right here. This is the water that's still running through the Dnieper River.
Yeah, but how can they get down to the river itself?
Well, they're going to have a hard time, because this pond, measure from here to there on your map. You see where this point is right there?
I got to go over to another screen and see what you're looking at.
Let me get another one up here too, so is that I can do a little bit of this stuff myself here. I don't have to keep
there's some delays
depending on you, because I'm
looking at the YouTube thing. I got to find that.
Bring this down here. Open up a project. Just so happens we have one called Ukraine.
I'm not watching the Rumble. I don't know what's wrong with it. Let me
That's
sign
all right.
in. I got passwords and I can't even find it. So I don't know. I'm not watching.
No worries. I will bring it up here on the screen.
All right.
So here we are. So we will go in here and we will look for the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is right here. So the closest water from here is right over here, because what's left of the Dnieper River is now flowing right here. Okay. Yep. And actually, I can go right here, that's actually the closest point. It looks like is right there. So if we go here to measurements and we tell them that we want to do that in feet, and we go to the closest point, well, actually the closest point of water, because that's how far they got to pump it, is from there to there. Let's do that in miles, because it's 25,454 feet.
Wow. So how in the world are they going to get a pipe that long or a pumper in there? And it's just
so it's 4 miles.
All right.
4.2 miles that they're going to have to pump.
How are you going to get it out? You got a pumper, you got something that's going to drive it?
I ain't got nothing that's going to pump 2,000 gallons a minute, 4 miles.
How are they going to get it there? I mean, and the other thing is if they try to get fire trucks in there to run it like.
Oh, you're not going to do this with a fire truck. This is going to have to be done with a giant commercial pump. Yeah. You're going to have a big commercial emergency fire pump, and you're going to have.
I was about to point out the absurdity of it. I mean, you're
gonna have to have probably 16 of them.
You'd have to have electricity for fuel
No, just diesel. You would have to support them with.
You don't have diesel if you can't pump the diesel to keep the trucks running.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna have.
I'm going backwards in the supply chain. If you don't have electrical power to pump fuel, your trucks ain't even getting there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The way I think they're going to have to do it is a helicopter resupply of fuel to keep them going from somewhere else, because they're not going to have enough trucks to keep the circuit going.
Or are they smart enough to even do that? I mean, they got to do all this in a war zone too.
Right. It's going to have to be done from the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainians need to be putting those emergency pumps in place and putting those irrigation lines out and getting all of that equipment together. If they got all the farmers together with all the irrigation equipment and all the four-wheel drive tractors, they could get water flowing in there probably in a couple days. If they got all of the farmers together right now that are on the north side.
They're crossing held military zones, because on the right side with the plant sets Russian, and on the left side Ukrainian. So
I'm talking about what to do once they take control of it, if they can take control of it before it goes out of control. And see, this is the thing. It's going to go so low, and the Russians are going to freak out and leave. They're not going to stay.
Well, that might be.
And that's when the Ukrainians are going to have to strike. So it's going to have to be, disaster management was one of the things I studied in college.
But by the time the Russians run from there, you're going to be down to the last wire. You're going to be in a critical situation. You got to move pronto, fast.
So what they're going to have to do is have tractors that have those roll out spool water lines behind them for irrigation, and have a collection of those and a collection of tractors, and have a collection of tractors with pumps. And the best thing to do would be to use a tractor that has the PTOs in the front and the rear, like the big John Deeres, and have a pump mounted on the rear of the John Deere and a pump mounted on the front of the John Deere, and have tractors that pull those spools out, and you pull up with one John Deere and you're pumping water through both lines at one time. That way you can take 400 horsepower and have two separate lines running off of one tractor. Take half as many tractors, you'll flow twice as much water. And then you could have more tractors to back that up. It's going to have to be, and look, the Ukrainian farmers are smart enough to figure it out to make it happen. We just got to get the bug in their ear that this is what you got to do. Because this is flowing water like water's never been flown before. You know what I mean?
They better do something or they're going to lose everything.
You're damn right. Because they got 4.5 miles they got to pump that water. So they need 16 miles, probably 18, 20 miles of irrigation pipe. And they're going to need no less than 32 pumping stations.
That is real difficult to pull off. That is difficult to pull off. Pumping water that distance is not a trivial thing, especially with tractors. I mean, good grief, guys.
Right, we do it. Farmers do it all the time, and we can flow about 1,000 gallons a minute.
If that's a long
through that, but we've got multiple tractors to go a mile.
That's a long distance, and they got to get down in the mud to do it. So
right.
Out of there.
Well, the Ukrainians are specialists at moving in the mud.
Well, I hope so.
Nobody moves in the mud better than a Ukrainian. And I've been there. I've gotten that gumbo shit on me before. It don't come off.
I believe it. I believe it.
That's people. I have told people time and time again about the mud season in Ukraine, and the closest thing that I can think of the mud in Ukraine, and it's not nearly as bad as the mud in Ukraine, is the deep Cajun gumbo mud that you step on it the first time and you've added a foot or a pound to your foot. And then you step down on it again and now you've added 2 pounds to your foot. And you step down again and now your foot weighs 4 more pounds. And you step down again and you've added 8 pounds to your foot. And the next time you step down, you won't pick your foot up again. You're done. That is the kind of nasty, icky, sticky, gooey mud that they have over there. It's like a tar baby. And the more you touch it, the more you get on you, and you just can't get it off. And once you get it on and it dries, you've literally got to chisel it off. It's absolutely insane. So it's great for growing stuff, but it's a bitch to try to maneuver through.
Yeah, but you got that in your tractor tires too. They got those.
Right. That's why they use a lot of tracked tractors over there.
Oh, you'd need to get down in that mud.
Right. A lot of the tractors in Ukraine have tracks they're like high-speed bulldozers. It's
Hey,
almost like a tank.
I stuck a track skid steer one time in the back of my place. So, yeah, especially if you turn around in the mud, if you turn around, you're going down.
Yeah. Well, their tractors over there have a whole lot less ground pressure than a skid steer. Their tractors over there are like 3 pounds, 4 pounds per square inch.
Yeah, but I definitely went. We had, a lot of times you can push yourself out with a bucket. I couldn't do it. We had to get another skid steer in to get
right. Yeah. Yeah. So they're screwed unless somebody does something dramatic. So somebody was saying the half-life on the nuclear material is 5 years.
Well, yeah, that's half-life. They claim it takes 5 to 7 years, but practically 7 years for it to cool down enough just to dry casket, which means it's still radioactive, but that's when you can handle it outside the water. So but it's still radioactive. You still got to be protected and shielded for a long time to come. The dry casking, the whole idea of the dry casking is that it's, you shouldn't get leakage from it, unless you drop it and shatter it. Low system resources may affect your audio quality. Oh, Lord. Anyway.
No Bad's asking, can irrigation pipe handle that high of pressure? Yes. We don't need pressure here. We need flow. And so large bore irrigation pipe, we're talking like 6-inch, 10-inch, whatever they can get out there, the bigger, the better. We don't need a whole lot of pressure because they're not trying to go that high. The difference in the altitude between the bottom of the reservoir and the top of the berm, I wouldn't think is much over 30 feet, Greg? 40 feet? The bottom of the reservoir to the top of the berm?
Probably. It's not.
Okay, so let's say 50 feet, just for shits and giggles. So if 50 feet, you only need about 25 pounds of pressure to overcome that. And if they've got multiple tractors that are stacked up across the bottom of the dam there or the reservoir, then they can easily achieve that because it's going to be staged pumps. So you'll have a drafting pump, and then you'll have boost pumps for the tractors that are along the way. So probably you would have, if you were running at high RPM, you'd probably be running the tractors. If all pumps were the same, you would probably be running the tractors at the bottom of the reservoir harder than you would at the top of the reservoir. In fact, you could be cutting back your RPM as you were going towards the reservoir to prevent cavitation. And each one of the additional tractors along the way is just helping to push it.
I'm looking at the berm wall, Lee, on Google Earth, and the berm wall tells me it varies a little bit. Like some places it's up to 67 foot tall, but some places it's down as low as 60 feet. 58. I got 58 on one side. That's at the corner, I guess. So that berm wall actually is not as high as about the height of the water back up next to the plants. It's not that tall. So yeah, maybe they could get water over it or they could come through that channel where it was originally set as an intake. Or
right. But I'm talking about the depth difference when you look at the depth of how much it has dropped off.
Oh yeah, but you got to get water over that berm wall though.
Right. But I'm going from where the river is now on the far side at its lowest depth. I'm saying between the surface level of the river now, the Dnipro flowing by on the other side of what was the reservoir, from the top of the Dnipro River now to the top of that berm is not over 50 feet.
No.
Right. That's what I was saying, 40 to 50 feet at most. But I said 50 feet just to give us a number to work with, an easy number. So it's worst case scenario, and it's an easy number to work with because you get about 2 pounds, or excuse me, each 2 feet of height gives you about a pound of head pressure that you've got to overcome to get to that height. So, if you want to go 50 feet, you better have 27, 28 pounds on there, and then it'll start barely coming out. But you'll get it out. So the tractors would probably be running, I don't know, 100, 150 PSI at most through the line. And the line is like 1/4 inch aluminum. So the lines they're not easily broken, and they don't leak a lot. You may get a little bit of a trickle out of the irrigation lines, but you get most of it through there. So if you get a bunch of high-powered tractors, like I said, the John Deeres, the Fence and so on and so forth that have the PTOs on the front and the rear, and then you get all of the same kind of pump that you can interface to, so all the machines have the same animal. And then you get flex lines going from your last section to your input on your pump, and then you blow it out the side of the tractor. You should be good to go. Then you go that flex line to your next section of irrigation pipe. And you can lay that without the tractor even being there. The tractor can pull in afterwards because it's got flex line. You're going to have hard suction on the discharge and hard suction on the input. Or actually, you can use slick sleeve on the discharge and just run your hard suction to your intake. And that way, if there's a problem on the other end, you can kind of suck the water through the thing. And you can draft for 13 feet. So.
Okay. Well, how many tractors do you think they'd have to string together on each line to?
You'd have 2 tractors, or you'd have 2 pumps on each tractor and a tractor every 1/4 mile. So you need 16 tractors.
Every 1/4 mile.
Yep, you need 16 tractors and 32 pumps, and you could deliver 2,000 gallons a minute.
All right.
I'd guarantee that.
Definitely help.
Yeah. Yep, 16 tractors, 32 pumps, and 9 miles of irrigation pipe.
Lee, you got friends over there in Ukraine.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to make a phone call as soon as I hang up, or as soon as I'm done with this show.
They need to do this as soon as they get, because if they don't, they're going to be cooking.
Right. I'm calling DC as soon as I get done with this show.
Here's another thing I'm worried about. I'm worried about all the farmland around there. If they start flinging all this depleted uranium around, you got to wonder about how that's going to affect the crops.
But yeah, that's not going to be good.
No.
You ain't going to eat it.
So yeah, you got 2 different radiological damages that may affect the breadbasket of Europe here. And one being plant, and the other being the radiological rounds that Biden is sending over there. And then Putin just says, well, if you're going to use them, I am too. So
well, the thing is with the radioactive rounds that Biden's sending over there, if this goes off, you won't be able to even find those rounds.
That's true. That's if this goes off, those ain't nothing.
Right. You're not even going to see those. Those are grains of sand in the Sahara.
So we're not just talking about irradiating a good part of Ukraine and Russia. This is the breadbasket of Europe here, guys.
Right. We're talking about irradiating for a long ways. It's like I was telling my wife the other night. If this thing fucking melts down.
Yeah, let's watch our language. Channel. Thank you.
If this thing melts down, and now I was upset about it, is why I said it that way. If this thing melts down, you'll be able to detect the radiation of this if you were flying over in the International Space Station.
Jeez.
And that's my bet.
Yeah, this is going to be a global catastrophe in the food supply, because you got to think the food supply is global. It's a global market. Grain gets shipped all over the world. And this is going to be a huge deficit in that grain shipment. And it's going to probably affect everything going in and out of the Black Sea, because it's so close to the Black Sea. Russia's not going to have a hard time exporting too. So this is going to mess up Russia and Ukraine exports that the world's been relying on, guys. So, you know, if you go back out to the Black Sea, you'll see that it's you know, there's a lot of area there that may be cut off. It's going to radiate quite a bit of area. This is, yeah, I don't know how far that radiation is going to be that intense. You know, the heavier
a long ways.
Yeah, the heavier stuff will fall out closer to the plant, the heaviest elements. But this
correct. But see, this is the point I was making the other night. There's way, way, way more radioactive material here than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Fukushima didn't have this. Chernobyl didn't have this.
No. Well,
So
Chernobyl had what, 4 reactors? You got 6
right.
reactors here. They've been going for a long time. It's a
Right, but there's what's stored in the ponds is way more.
yeah, you can tell that.
Right. So
Full.
the thermal column that is the updraft that will carry the material aloft is going to be 2 things.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Much bigger.
Yeah.
And because there's more material, there's going to be more heat generated, which means that the velocity of that thermal column is going to be faster, much faster.
Huge
And the size of that thermal column is probably going to be at least 6 to 10 times larger than that of Chernobyl. It will be 20 times larger than that of Fukushima.
Yeah, folks in Europe are in trouble.
So that is going to be, this is the difference between a dust buster and a commercial vacuum as far as how it's sucking that up into the atmosphere and in the stratosphere to go around the planet. So there's going to be a lot more material. It's going to go up a whole lot faster. It's going to go a whole lot higher, and it's going to travel a whole lot farther. And because of that updraft, there's going to be even more of it. So in other words, if you had this that is melting down and you cut it in half, you would probably get about a quarter of the amount of radiation going in the air because it's not a single thermal column. So if you keep cutting it like that, it's like in dB, every time you decrease the size of the heat source, the thermal column gets smaller, the thermal column gets cooler, and the thermal column doesn't go as high. So because all of this is at the same place at the same time, it's a cluster, folks. It's a bunch of monkeys and a football. It's going to be ugly, no matter how you look at it. So that's why I dedicated tonight's show to what could be. I'm not telling you it's going to be, because the Ukrainians have been so good at pulling stuff out of their aft to make things work. This, so can they pull it off? I still have faith in them. Will they be able to? I don't know.
You got a war zone here. Can either?
Correct. That's the part about it is, what if they've got that plant zoomed in, or they've got that plant zeroed in on Russian artillery, the Russians pull back out, the Ukrainians move in, and then they start shelling the plant. That's when it's going to go to hell in a handbasket. Or if they set off the explosives in reactor 4, which I love how there's 4 reactors at Chernobyl. Number 4 was the one that exploded. And yet there's 6 reactors at Zaporizhzhia, and the reactor they decide to put all the nuclear or all the explosives into, or excuse me, not reactor, the wall of it's inside the turbine building on the wall against the reactor. And so they filled that end of that building with anti-tank mines. They're stacked. We got video of it. We aired it.
Wow.
So, so they've stacked it full of explosives. So say the Russians do leave and then the Russians push the button. Well, now how are you going to go there and work on it?
Yeah, yeah, if they do that, you won't be able to get around there. Yeah, there's a lot of trigger events that could happen to make it just where you can't get it in there to do the kind of things that we're talking about doing for a solution with all those tractors out there. I had a buddy suggest that we fly in some of the oil rig turbo pumps, and you can put like 4 of them in a C-130 and get them over there, and you can definitely get 2,000 gallons a minute with them.
Right.
That was
you're still going to have to stage them because you got loss through the line.
Yeah, but you got to have power to them. You got to have something to run them.
Right. They're all run off diesel, JP8.
Yeah, and those tractors, you put those tractors in that riverbed, you better be taking fuel to them regularly. You got to have logistics. All the logistics has got to be worked out. And you got to tell the guys when you talk to them in Ukraine, when you call.
Oh, I lost you, Greg. I lost him. Hopefully he'll come back. We'll wait. Oh, see how they do us. All right, folks, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. There he is.
All right, am I back?
Yes, sir.
All right,
The one and only Green Greg's.
Yeah, I'm having some real bad internet connectivity problems, guys, and especially with this Zoom application. The bad thing about Zoom is if you're recording on your own computer, it still goes through the internet. So if it goes out, you can't even record to your own computer. I was trying to just record some video last
Well,
night.
that's what you get when you use an app that's designed for the PLA to do surveillance on everybody else in the world.
What app are you using? I got to change.
I have my own. I use Zello, or excuse me, I use OBS for video production.
Yeah.
And recording. And then if I need to have people come in on a roundtable, we have a Jitsi server of our own. And that allows us to bring in people like you on our Jitsi server.
Yeah, I got to figure something out. I ain't got the money for a server, but.
Well, don't worry about it. I'll hook you up. Anytime you need to do something, you let me know. We'll hook you up with an admin on there. So if you need to pull somebody in one at a time or however at a time, go ahead and use it. I'll be willing to sponsor you for that.
I got to figure out how to make it work out. So
well, we'll make it work. I'll get with Marcelo and we'll get you an address on there so that you can make the calls that you need to.
I got to get out of this Zoom business. It's driving me crazy. The whole internet connection business too. And you're saying you have internet connectivity problems. I wonder if they've targeted us and
they're targeting people who tell the truth. So that's why both of us are being targeted. And there's others that are being targeted. I'm hearing from other friends that are having the same problems.
I don't doubt it.
And talk about they're giving people community guideline strikes from videos that were posted 4 years ago.
Oh, good grief.
Now, how desperate do you have to be to want to take somebody down that you have to scour through a video that they put up 4 years ago?
No, the worst part was it's fine then, and now it's not.
Correct.
So
Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah, you can't find him on the air anymore either, can you?
Nope, he's gone.
Poor feller.
Yep, there's all kinds of stuff like that.
I know, right? Popeye.
Yeah, Popeye's gone. The Dukes of Hazzard.
Lord Almighty, Dukes of Hazzard.
He's gone. That's insane.
That was fun stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
lost you, buddy.
Oh, I'm
go.
sharing the Zaporizhzhia right now. I just noticed that nobody was sharing them from my end, so I just dialed in the Zaporizhzhia here on Google Earth. So, yeah, guys, these cooling pools here are in the wide open air. They're huge. They're just loaded. Yeah, if you think about warheads, a warhead has got a small nuclear payload in it. You could probably fit all the nuclear warheads on Earth in about that section right there.
Right.
If you throw them a missile, you can take all the nuclear warheads in the Earth and fit them in a little area like that. Because there's only, a few thousand missiles like that. But these are full of big, ginormous fuel rods. And these are deep pools. Well, these pools are just chock full of stuff. And you got a few over here, smaller pools. These got stuff in them too. These two, probably not. That don't actually anything. That might have a little bit.
I don't think that it has anything in it because there's no activity on the surface. I think both of those.
The reason there's activity on the surface is they're filled.
Right. Right.
They're overfilled. Normally, you just got to pump the water in and through a regular pipe, but they're having to run sprinklers on top of them. They got them so filled. That is,
I think they're fountains.
Yeah. Okay. Fountains, sprinklers, whatever.
Yeah, right. And I think what you're seeing there is these the ones on the south end, the 6 big ones. Okay. I think that's when it comes fresh out of the reactor and they put them in the bigger ponds. And then as they cool down, they move them to another pond that doesn't require as much cooling, which would be these center ponds. And then they move them up to the smaller ponds towards the top and then over to the ends. And when they cool off in there, then they pull them out. And then they run them down the road and put them in those dry casting things that they've got.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have a process.
I watched it. I mean, I'm not sure how they do it at Zaporizhzhia. I haven't watched the documentary on Zaporizhzhia, but I did watch the documentary on Chernobyl and how they did it at Chernobyl. And considering they were both built by Russia, and they're probably very similar.
Probably very similar. You know, everybody's got a different technique, but
yeah, when they're all built by Russia, they're all pretty close to being the same animal.
probably what bugs me once again is the lack of design margin, the lack of safety margin in this system, the fact that the inlets that supply the cooling pond would not be able to grab water once they were just 12, once the water dropped below 12.7 meters, and the regular depth was only 13.1 meters. So, and when you look at stuff like that, and then you look at how tight they got these pools packed in here, there's just a lot of issues, a lot of safety issues in my mind with how this whole thing was laid out. And yet this is the biggest nuclear power plant in all of Europe. So this is not a pretty situation by any stretch of imagination. What you're talking about, how, you know, we got some cesium-133, no, 137, excuse me. We had cesium-137 over here all the way from Fukushima. Wasn't it was low, very low amounts, trace amounts, but good Lord, and it went, some of it went worldwide. Now, you know, you're not going to get a very substantial amount of radiation here out of this thing, but you know, you'll see more than we saw from Fukushima, given there's so much more nuclear fuel in here, and given also what you're talking about, that the thermal rise from the fire this is going to generate will create a huge thermal updraft. Yeah, if it kicks it in the stratosphere, oh my gosh, if it gets that high, we're in huge trouble.
And the thing about it is once that gets hot like that, and you got that thermal updraft, it's going to suck everything up.
Yeah, it's don't tell.
I mean, it's going to suck the ground clear. There's not going to be any grass. There's not going to be any leaves. There's not going to be anything around that nuclear power plant that's free, that can blow. That thermal column from that is going to suck it up in the air.
Yeah, like the Dresden fires. So this will be a lot more concentrated. So yeah, this is not good. So, you know, you think about what happened at Chernobyl. They actually had helicopter pilots who gave their life to be able to fly buckets of concrete over that plant and seal it. This is way bigger, way bigger. If this goes off, I don't think anybody can do anything about it. I mean, it's just going to start cooking. I don't have no concept for how they could seal this in any shape, form, or fashion. You know, a little helicopter with a bucket of concrete is nothing compared to the size of these pools here. I mean,
there ain't enough helicopter pilots in the world.
Yeah, how could you jump enough? Yeah, do you have enough helicopters, enough helicopter pilots? You know, there's that old joke about if you had an infinite number of stop signs, an infinite number of rednecks, an infinite number of shotguns, an infinite number of shells and beer, you know, how long would it take them to shoot the full works of Shakespeare into the stop signs, you know, random hole pattern generation? Well, right. Well, you don't have enough, kind of that kind of joke. You don't have enough helicopters and pilots to do this. So this is that's a lot of volume down there, guys. It takes a lot of stuff. Those helicopter buckets, you know, not that big.
Yeah, Bambi bucket will hold about 1,000 gallons of water. A big one. So if you got a big helicopter, you're picking up about it.
All right.
So if you got a great big Bambi bucket, you might get about 1,000 gallons of water at most out of a giant Bambi bucket. Most of them are hundreds of gallons.
Well, they should be hauling
300, 500.
Maybe they should start hauling water now before it all goes down. If somebody out there, even the Russians on their side, they're going to suffer from this too, big time. So everybody,
well, the common Russian soldier doesn't know.
No, they don't. How many of the commanders know? I mean, how many people out there understand the risk of this situation? Really, everybody's been told everything. Don't worry about it.
The percentage of people in the world that really understand what's going on there, I'll bet is less than 1% of the whole world really understands what's about to transpire.
You're being very optimistic.
Yes, I am. That's what I said, about 1%.
You could probably count them on your fingers and toes.
Well, no, I would think there's more than that. I would, because you got to understand, everybody that's been a nuclear reactor tech in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
And then everybody who's been a nuclear reactor tech at a plant and then everybody who works in the nuclear energy industry. So there's probably a few thousand out there.
Yeah, I know some people who've done it. I got some friends
Right.
that, so.
But it's fugly, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I got one real good friend who was in the submarines, and he went working for TVA's nuclear power plants, and he came worked for us on rockets for a while. But anyways, yeah, quite a few of our rocket safety engineers came out of the nuclear power plant industry. But you know, the other thing is they don't have enough qualified technicians over there overseeing this. That's what the technicians that left have told us. He said, we ain't got people there. The people we had there are under duress. You need to have people who can think clearly and take action.
They're fleeing. They're fleeing like cockroaches in the light right now. They're leaving the city. I got notified today that there's traffic jams of people getting out of the city because the people that live in that city, the way Russia, a lot of people don't understand how Russia is. In different cities in Russia, you have different industries. And so if you live in that city, you either work in that industry or you do something that supports that industry. And then in addition to that, in Russia, they have what are called secret cities, where they do things that nobody knows anything about, and everything that's done in that city pertains to what they're doing. One of those used to be Rostov, and Rostov was famous for making night vision optical devices for the Russian military. And another company called Bagish, which is in Bagish, that made night vision equipment. Some of that night vision equipment was made for the KGB. And at the breakup of the Soviet Union, I was lucky enough because I worked with the night vision lab. I worked with Jim. God, I can't remember what his last name is. But Jim, he ran the night vision lab at Aberdeen Proving Grounds back behind the wall. For those of you who have been to Aberdeen, he was the head of the night vision directorate. And when the Soviet Union broke up, all of those different models of night vision equipment were shipped over to the United States, and yours truly had the opportunity to test and evaluate all of the night vision equipment that the Russian military and the Russian government had, including their opera glasses, their tank helmets, their rifle scopes. And the Russians don't have a lot of night vision equipment that is made for the individual soldier. Russia has night vision sights for tanks. Russia has night vision equipment for helicopters and aircraft. Russia has night vision equipment in the form of sniper scopes. And then the KGB has things that they called opera glasses, which were like a welder's band, adjustable band for a welder's helmet. And it had a dual tube system on the front and a battery pack on the back for a counterweight. And that is what the elite KGB used for their missions. And we called them opera glasses, or that was their code name for them. So, and they were a 1-to-1, but you could see in the dark. So I've used all of their equipment, and they're by far inferior to us. And I've seen how all of their stuff works. So anyway, go ahead, Greg.
All right. Well, the sad thing about this is that in the war zone, this is going to be very hard to deal with. But if it's not dealt with, if they don't have something in the next few weeks to deal with this, we're in grave trouble. And even if the radiation primarily affects Europe, we're going to see global food supplies get slammed as a result of this, considering Ukraine's a bedbasket of the world. A lot of stuff gets exported from Russia too, and the whole supply chains will be disrupted in this area. It's going to make for a huge mess. It's going to be a wreck, not to mention how each country going to react at this point. If this goes off, people are going to go nuts. We actually could see a much bigger war conflagration from one side to the other. This is something, Arnold says, James, brother, it will melt like a concrete, like a volcano. That concrete will be gone. This is a catastrophic situation we're talking about. So even if this pulls go off like that, you could expect cascading failures to other systems. I wonder if it would cascade to reactor number 4, which is still hot. You'd expect if it's still hot, it could go off too. So
see that the thing is, they've already put explosives next to 4.
But the fuel rods are worse. The fuel rod pulls are worse. Now, see, they always thought we ain't got to worry about them. We got cooling water on them, so they'll be fine. But that's what everybody thinks. But that way, as long as you can keep that cooling water, fine. But let's see how you do that now. You're in a pickle. This is a extremely bad situation. So I just want everybody to know that you need to really, really, really think hard about prepping right now. Buy those potassium iodine pills. Get you some pectin. If you eat pectin, the stuff they use for canning fruits, it basically comes from like apples and stuff. Get some apple pectin. Eat that. That'll help you get a whole bunch of it. Store it up now. That'll help you in these situations. I got videos about surviving a nuclear war. They pertain to this too. I got videos about grid down bug outs. You need to go check those videos out. I got playlists that do some of the stuff. You need to watch these videos on this, guys.
Go to Green Greg's channel, people.
Go in there and watch these videos. Yeah, the guys over on Lee's channel, subscribe to my channel too, and vice versa. Come over here.
Well, there's 560 people in here, and I had 780 earlier.
Well, I got 403, which is really good for me right now. I got 400.
You got how many?
403. That dropped
Very
down
good.
too. If Russia has newer equipment, where is it? Says Tommy. Yeah, where is their equipment? Everybody's so obsessed with the war right now, they're not paying attention. And a lot of people just don't realize the risk involved in this. And you got commanders and politicians that got no clue, people that commanding the war and making things happen. So the people that do understand it may not have a voice or much of one. That's why, Lee, I hope you get to your friends over in Ukraine and communicate to them if they do manage to take this area, because the Russians are running from it. But that means their time is short. If the Russians are saying, oh my God, we got to get out before the place blows, you're like that technician that's cutting wires on the bomb seconds before it goes off. Which wire do I cut? The red wire or the blue wire? That's going to be the situation they're in.
Well, this is the way I would do it. If it were me, I would have a pair of tractors lined up with, so you got 2 tractors sitting side by side. Then you've got 4 hose reels. Then you've got 2 more tractors and 4 more hose reels. And what you do is the first tractors go in and they drop their lines to start the drafting operation from the river. And the tractors that are behind them start running with their spools. And when they get to the end of their spools, a tractor pulls up and hooks up to 2 spools. Another tractor hooks up and hooks up to the other 2 spools. And then the next tractor is there, hook to those 2 tractors with spools and take off again. And if they did it that way, they would be able to, they could practice this before they did it. But if they did it that way, they could lay that 4 miles of pipe in under an hour.
Well, you know what they need to do? They need to designate the tractors and the spools right now. They need to get stuff lined up. Who's going to man, whose tractors are going out there? Who's going to man them? Who's going to do all this stuff? You better have some guys out there manhandling the pipe, and they got to trudge through the mud to do it. So you've got a lot of people. They need to have a platoon, a tractor platoon set up, not a tractor company, basically, because you got 16 tractors. So you can have a bunch of guys involved in this. 16 would make a platoon, I guess, but you got to have all the other people that helping them out. So it'd be a company level effort, talking military unit, but it'd probably be farmers, civilians, and they may, if we're getting close to where this thing is going to burn up, they may have to go in, even if the other side is occupied by Russians, just go in under a white flag and see if the Russians won't snipe them, because they have to make it clear, hey, we're trying to save the region from burning up. Maybe, just maybe, the troops on the other side will let them in so they won't all get fried. They haven't all run off in fear yet. If they run off in fear, then they can get on in there. But I would not want to be around this plant when the water runs down.
Yeah, one of the folks in my chat is saying they can spool them out of a Chinook. The problem is, I don't think you can get the spool in a Chinook. The spools are so tall. The spools are like 12 feet tall. You're not going to roll that into the back door of a Chinook.
There might be some helicopters you could sling load a big package underneath, but
right, yeah, you could probably, if you could put you could do that. You could sling load it and drag it over and spool it out.
I sling loaded a helicopter once. I've done it one time. It's part of my training when I was in the Army. But
Yeah, I was part of the testing of the world's first fully autonomous helicopter
oh,
for the
wow,
Marine Corps. It was a K-Max. I got video of that.
cool. Well,
That was interesting. We were sling loading it out. What impressed me the most about that helicopter is it could judge how the payload was swinging on the bottom of the helicopter
nice.
from the way it pulled, and would calculate where that was. And that thing would come in and hover. And if you had a flatbed truck and you gave the exact coordinates of the bed of that truck, it would set that pallet on the back of that truck. Now, don't ask it to set 2 pallets on there, because the second one's probably going to be on the first one, or, because of the distance. Flatbed truck ain't that big. But if you had an empty, like, deuce and a half sitting out there with the sides folded down, this thing would come into that point and lower that right down on the back of that deuce and a half and fly away.
I got a 2-ton truck.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. So this is what we're looking at. So Lee, when we get off the call your contacts in Ukraine and give them a plan of action. If anybody knows anybody on the rescue side, do the same. Somebody's got, and maybe at least convince them not to take pot shots at each other. Or somebody's trying to get water to this plant. I don't know if we can get word up high enough that people can think about that, but that's what needs to be done. I mean, this is one spot where they need not to be fighting over, but they probably tend to do it. So it's just hard to get military commanders out of that notion that they got to fight over this stuff when in the middle of a war. There is hope, though. There was a Christmas in World War I where the Germans and American soldiers actually got together and kind of had a Christmas party right in the middle between the trenches, and it really made all the commanders mad, and they had a hard time getting them to separate and start shooting at each other again. Somebody put a Christmas tree on the end of one of the trenches, and then somebody started singing on the other side, and next thing you know, they all just said the heck with this war, and they went together and had a party. It's too bad we can't do that with warfare in general, but maybe they'll make an exception for this. Maybe if they don't, we got a serious trouble. Like you said, if the Russians just decide, hey, this is too hot here, we got to get out and run, then if the Ukrainians run at it and get there before it gets too late, they might be able to salvage it. Maybe.
All right, I just notified Washington.
All right, we need that. This word needs to get out and about.
So if my phone rings and I disappear for a minute, you're just going to have to ad lib until I get back.
All right. Well, I don't know how much more we can add to the damage we've already done. I think we've already assessed the situation and the solutions at hand. Now it's just time to make the contacts. If anybody's in the chat of either one of our channels that knows how to do this, knows the contact people, right people, just go ahead and tell them to watch these videos, if nothing else. Everything they need to know is in these videos and videos I had. Big one.
Right, and what we're going to do I want to make note of it here. When I did my calculations on this.
Yeah, how long do you think we got?
All right, so when I did my calculations on this, I said worst case scenario, I got to call Washington. That's how fast Washington D.C. responds. My worst case scenario was 12 days.
Jeez.
And that started 2 days ago. We got 10 days.
10 days is not good.
At worst, 10 days. That's if the side doesn't collapse or anything.
That's not. If the side collapses, it's over.
Yeah. So you want to ad lib with them, or you want me to go right away? What do you want me to do, Greg? Can you ad lib for?
I tell you what, let's just go. I don't think we got anything else to cover here. I think we.
All right, folks. I'm out of here. I got to call Washington. I love that Washington responds that fast. That was cool as shit. All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to do a live stream after this for KLW World News members and for Coffee Club members only. Going to be open for discussion, answering questions, so on and so forth. So if you haven't signed up already, go to klwworldnews.com, sign up there VIP or above, or go to the Coffee Club and sign up there immediately so you'll get this notification. With that, folks, I am out of here. Greg, thank you very much, sir. I always appreciate your infinite wisdom when it comes to subjects like this. We will be getting back together here very, very soon. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for bringing this up, and I thank you for keeping an eye on everything going on in the world right now. You got a lot of eyes out there, and it really helps to know what's going down.
Well, that's the great part about the KLW World News Network. We get the stuff that nobody else does. All right, I got to call DC. Ukraine's waiting. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you on the Coffee Club a little later.
Thank y'all
Bye-bye.
for watching. Subscribe, bang the notification button, click on, and go to prepwithgreg.com and check out the long-term food storage. You're going to need something, guys. So check it out, prepwithgreg.com. Got a special, $200 off, and then we got also a 2-week supply. Check it out. With that, I'm going to say I might be on later tonight, but until then, Greg out. Thank you. Oh, thank you, super chatters and mods. Thank you, super chatters, mods, and everybody for watching. Greg out.
Good night.